Hello, and thank you for viewing this tnAchieves FAFSA webinar. My name is Tyler Ford. I serve as Senior Director of Mentors for tnAchieves, and really the purpose of today's session is to talk about a critical requirement for your students and how you as a mentor can support and kind of connect your students to resources as they work to file their FAFSA on time. And that's really where I want to start by stressing that this is a mandatory requirement for your students. They must file the 2023-2024 FAFSA no later than March 1st, 2023, in order to stay eligible for Tennessee Promise. We talk about those mandatory deadlines, talk about those things they have to do to stay eligible, and the FAFSA is absolutely one of them. They need to have their FAFSA completed by March 1st to maintain their scholarship eligibility. Failure to do so will result in a permanent loss of Tennessee Promise eligibility. So this is really one of those critical deadlines students must meet as they navigate the college process and as they navigate the Tennessee Promise process. Now, I want to talk just a little bit about what the FAFSA is and why it's important your students file it before I talk more about the resources that you can help to connect your students to. The FAFSA is the free application for federal student aid. This is essentially one of the most fundamentally important steps in the college going process, because by filing the FAFSA, students are essentially submitting their application for federal Pell Grants, state scholarships, including the Hope Scholarship, TSAA, Wilder and AP grants. Really, they're just submitting their application to help make college more affordable, get federal and state dollars into their tuition, into their fees, so that, again, they're not having, hopefully, you're receiving financial aid and they're making college more affordable along the way. And it's going to help to determine how much money Tennessee Promise is going to pay towards their tuition and fees in the fall. So filing the FAFSA is just really important, whether you're thinking of using Tennessee Promise or not thinking of using Tennessee Promise as a student. We want your students to file the FAFSA because, again, it's going to help to get those federal and state dollars to help make college more affordable for them. So it's an important step for any student as they navigate the college going process. And this is the free application for federal student aid. And what I mean by that is students should not pay to file the FAFSA. You may find that students Google the FAFSA, they look for help in filing the FAFSA, and they find paid resources. We're going to talk more about resources that they have at their disposal here in a moment. But a really important note is that students should not be paying to file the FAFSA. This should be entirely and completely free to them, and there are a number of resources available to help them as they file the FAFSA. Now, when filing the FAFSA, dates are really important for your students. They need to be filing the 2023-2024 FAFSA in order to stay eligible for Tennessee Promise. So paying attention to that year is really, really important. They're going to file this FAFSA using 2021's tax information. So this is all outlined in your handbook. This will be communicated to students in reminders, but I'd like to mention it because it may be a question you get from your students as they navigate the FAFSA and as they get it filed. So the dates and the years really do matter here. A final note as your students are filing the FAFSA is that they are going to need parent assistance here. This is not something a student can do by themselves. They need parent or guardian tax information, and they need parent and guardian signature in order to have their FAFSA successfully filed. So as you're talking to your students about this requirement, and as you're working on reminding them and encouraging them to get that FAFSA filed by March 1st, we would encourage you to make sure that you're communicating that, hey, their parents need to help too. They should talk to their parents and make a plan to sit down and get this filed because they do need that parent assistance and that parent signature when it comes to filing the FAFSA. And the students should really take their time when it comes to filing the FAFSA. Students may find the FAFSA can be a little bit confusing. It can take a little bit of time. This is not something that a student can sit down and do in just 5 minutes. It tends to take a little bit longer than that. It tends to take an attention to detail. So when you're talking to your students about the FAFSA, when you're encouraging them to file the FAFSA, make sure you stress that they should take their time, they should double check everything they enter, and they should be unafraid to reach out and ask for help because it's likely, very possible that students may have questions as they file the FAFSA. They're going to have a number of resources to help them do that. But it is important that they take their time, they pay attention to the information they enter, and they make sure that when they submit that FAFSA, when they file it, everything they've entered is correct, accurate, to the best of their knowledge, and they're ready to move forward in the financial aid and application college going process kind of generally. Now, I do want to talk a little bit about your role in the FAFSA and resources that you can help connect your students with over the next few months as they file their FAFSAs. I want to stress before we talk about these resources that it is not our expectation for you as a mentor that you sit down and file the FAFSA alongside your students, or that you walk your students step by step through the FAFSA. That is not, never will be our expectation here. The FAFSA does contain personal tax information. It includes personal income information for families. Information that you as a mentor are not expected to kind of wade into, to get into, and information that, frankly, families may not feel comfortable sharing. And that's okay. Again, we don't expect you as a mentor to walk through step by step the FAFSA filing process. Instead, we view your role very much as reminding, encouraging, and connecting for students to help make sure they know the FAFSA deadline is coming. They have encouragement as they complete this step. And if they need any help or have any questions, they have a resource there to help connect them to individuals who can get into the weeds on the FAFSA and who can really help them make sure they've got all the details buttoned up and all the information corrected as it should be. So that brings me to my next point, which is what resources are available? Who can you connect your students with as they navigate the FAFSA filing process? First of which I'm going to mention is the Tennessee Achieves Student Handbook. One of these was mailed out to your students earlier in the fall. We've also got a digital copy available on our website. That handbook has in it a step-by-step guide to how to file the FAFSA. It really gets into the weeds. It really goes step-by-step through the process, and it is a fantastic resource for your students. So as they're going to do this, I would point them to that handbook as a really useful guide to make sure they're on the right track. They have guidance step-by-step, and they're familiar with what they need to do to get their FAFSA filed correctly. Now, of course, students may have questions that go beyond that step-by-step guide in the handbook, and we know that, we anticipate that. So a couple of things that you can do to help your students, should they reach out with some more involved questions. Connect them with our staff. Know that you can always share our staff's phone number. Any email that a student receives from Tennessee Achieves, they can respond to directly, or they can call that person that emailed them and get help. Our staff is always happy to pick up a call, take an email, and answer FAFSA questions. Again, we do not expect you to have all of the answers that students may ask as it relates to the FAFSA. So if you ever get an email from a student, let them know that you're going to reach out to me. Let them know that you're going to reach out to a member of our staff, and we will get you an answer to that question, and we will make sure that student is supported as they file the FAFSA. And again, too, your students should be checking their emails because our team is going to be sending students reminders and information as the FAFSA deadline approaches to make sure that they know if they need help, if they need someone to walk through the FAFSA with them, they can pick up the phone, they can call our staff, and we will be there to assist them through this process. And that's one overarching theme. That's one big note that I want to make. We do not expect your students to have to walk through the FAFSA filing process alone. There are a number of really excellent partners and excellent resources that exist to make sure your students are on the right track in the FAFSA filing process. Our staff and our team is certainly among these resources. But I would also encourage your students, and as you talk to them, I would make note that they should talk to their high school counseling team. High schools often host FAFSA filing nights, FAFSA filing days, where they have representatives on hand, where they have team members on hand to quite literally sit down at the computer with your students and help them file their FAFSA step by step. So our team has visited many of these over the years. It's a great opportunity to not only meet students face to face, but to make sure, again, that students are taking their time with the FAFSA, getting it filed, and having support and feeling really confident as they go through, again, a really critical step in the college process. So as you're talking to students, encourage them to talk to their high school counseling teams, encourage them to be on the lookout for that information, because those FAFSA filing nights and those FAFSA filing events really are fantastic resources for your students to make sure they're getting the FAFSA filed the correct way the first time. Another note is local colleges, TCAS, community colleges, four-year institutions, and a whole bunch of post-secondary institutions will be offering FAFSA filing support as well. So students can always reach out to one of the local colleges, say, hey, they're going to go in here next fall, can you help me file my FAFSA? And they'll be happy to get students plugged into support to make sure they're getting that FAFSA filed and to make sure, again, that they have answers to their questions and they're on the right track as they navigate FAFSA filing. So I mentioned all of this so that you know as a mentor, again, that it is not our expectation that you have to sit down and you have to go step by step through the FAFSA with your students. That is not our expectation. Instead, what we hope for you is that you know these resources exist. You can help to connect your students to these resources. And as always, if your students have questions, if they need help, they can connect with our staff and we can get them plugged into those resources, and we can answer those trickier questions that may come up as students go to file the FAFSA. Because again, this is one of the mandatory deadlines for students. They need to have that 2023-2024 FAFSA filed no later than March 1st in order to maintain scholarship eligibility. And as long as your students are checking their email, they're staying up to date with this requirement, and again, they're reaching out and asking for that help, we're going to make sure they get this done and they got the information they need inputted on that FAFSA. Hopefully you found this session to be helpful. Again, we don't want the FAFSA to feel overwhelming to you as a mentor. Always know that you can reach out, you can get help. We'll be more than happy to assist you as you assist your students in filing their FAFSAs on time. Again, my name's been Tyler Ford. If you need any help as your students are navigating FAFSA, you can just reach out to me at tyler@tnAchieves.org or reach out to us at mentors@tnAchieves.org, and we will be more than happy to assist. Thank you so much. We hope you have a great day.